Hey everybody, this is Spencer Todd. I'm CEO of Formerly AI. Welcome to the podcast. Today we are interviewing Conor Lamb, and he is part of the Skin Theory company. We're going to ask him about his journey with Skin Theory and living in Berlin in Ireland. Um, we are doing this podcast just to kind of interview medtech founders, get a feel for what it's like to essentially run a medtech company, or a digital health or a health company in general, understanding kind of like, the landscape and what works, what doesn't. And so really honored to have you on today, Connor. So I guess first question, can you kind of just describe yourself in a few words, kind of what you do, where you're from, that kind of thing?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm Conor Lamb, software engineer for the last couple of years. I don't know. I guess if you count college, I don't know, 5, 10 years, give or take, depending what you count. And yeah, live in Berlin. Been kind of doing the startup thing for the last few years. Before that, I worked in corporate, worked in Qualtrics as a software engineer. I'm from the States originally, but I'm half Irish and was living in Dublin for a while when I was working in corporate. And now I am in Berlin with yourself.
That's right. So I met Connor through Silicon Valley, which is cool, and that's where I got to know Skin Theory. So if you can just kind of give us like a quick 5 seconds on what Skin Theory is and who it's built for, that kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. So, Skin Theory is basically an acne kind of skin tracker where you can track like basically how your skin is doing and solve your own acne. That's kind of like the USP of the whole thing that usually in most solutions for acne or like skin problems are they'll always sell you a solution or a lotion and tell you it'll work. And most of them are lying or at least saying something. And I don't know, just making something up, And a lot of times you just need to actually look yourself and like kind of be a bit more scientific about like what can you actually take out of your life as opposed to what maybe are you adding on your skin. Like doing both, of course, but it's really hard to be scientific and do both adding things to your skin and removing things from your like life or diet or even where you sleep or like I guess how often you change your sheets, for example, is
Hmm.
something you want to keep track of.
Yeah, there's so many variables there, right?
Yeah.
Shout out to my wife because I swear, I think we get a new kind of like lotion or cream in every week that she's like trying for her like skin as well. So
Yeah.
I know how like confusing that space can be. So I think, and all of us, right, had acne at one point in our life, right? So it's a very familiar
Yeah.
problem.
You may have had acne, but I had acne. Yeah, like I really had acne. I did like Accutane like
Yeah.
3 times, I think, 2 or 3 times, and then I don't
Dang.
know. Like it comes from a real problem that I was
Right.
having. So,
Right.
but yes, yeah, it's something that I think when you have it, it's an extremely burdening problem, and then it's like you get it. Often people grow out of it, not always, and
Yeah.
then you just forget about it, and
Yeah.
like yeah, it's hard to explain that to people who haven't had it or haven't
Right.
had it for ages, for example.
And that's the best problem, right? That you're trying to solve
Yeah,
is one that hits close to home, makes you like more passionate about it, at least. So,
yep, yep.
cool. So at Skin Theory, what was your role there and kind of how did the idea come to be? Obviously, it was personal for you, but as far as kind of like deciding to build the company and everything and build the app, how did that come about?
Yeah, so I'm the original founder, I guess. I didn't feel like founder when I first started it, but I'm like the original founder of Skin Theory, but now it's me and my co-founder Moe, and we get some help from other people sometimes as well. I would say I take on more of I don't know. I think you know how founding early stages is somehow a CTO, sometimes a CEO role, and then he's
Hmm.
sometimes the CEO, sometimes the CMO. But I'm more the technical side, nonetheless now. Um, and I would say, yeah, starting it like it wasn't like that at all, right? Like basically what I did is um I guess even before even starting it is like the idea where I just really had acne for like several years as an adult, like a young adult, but still like
Hmm.
later than most people, like in my 20s in college, covering my whole face, covering my back and stuff like that. And I was trying all these different kind of routines to fix it. I was going to the dermatologist a bunch and nothing was working. It's kind of going around in circles. My skin often would get worse with trying stuff, which is like extremely disheartening.
Yeah.
when you have like high hopes for it working. And at some point, I was just like, all right, I'm like completely lost at this point. So I'm just going to try to like start like being scientific about this. I kind of think it's the time I was in college as well, where I actually was paying attention to like science classes and programming classes, where I'm like, all right, actually, you can do things methodically instead of just trying stuff.
The scientific
Um,
method. Yeah.
the scientific method, which
Yeah.
you learn a lot earlier than college, but it took me
Hmm.
a while to apply it. And but nonetheless, I basically was like, all right, I'm gonna just. I had read a bunch of stuff online. People always like try this crazy stuff, like try like something called like the caveman method, which will be like do nothing to your skin and see what happens. And there's something like romantic about when you read that. You're like, wait, that is the problem. I've been doing stuff for the last 3 years to my skin that's really intense. And of course, it didn't work for me at all. And then some people will claim it'll work, but maybe it
Right.
does. But that's the thing. That's why you need to test this kind of thing.
Hmm.
But anyway, so I kind of tried like a bunch of these different like hypotheses, like K-man method, or like trying like a low benzyl peroxide with moisturizer. And I basically would write that in like a Google Doc. And then I used to take pictures every night on Flickr when Flickr used to be free to like upload all your photos. And I would like look at it on the computer as well and like zoom in. And yeah, that actually helped me solve my acne. I guess like long story short for me, for people who are curious how I solved my acne, it was like actually none of the hard stuff. It was like very gentle stuff on my skin, like low benzyl peroxide, and then
Hmm.
like always moisturizing and like clean sheets and stuff like that, as opposed to like the nuclear options that like you always get prescribed to do to your skin, or
Right.
like in CVS or whatever, it buy like the most benzyl peroxide per drop.
Yeah, people want a quick fix for this, right? And that's
Yeah.
with most things in life, right? That's usually not the case, right? You have to kind
Right.
of,
I mean, it's not even the quick fix. It's more like, oh yes, of course, more of the medicine will help me, right? It's
yeah,
like
that's
no,
true
and
too.
actually, like I don't recommend that at all.
Yeah.
I had sensitive skin, and that was the thing I turned figured out, I guess. But yeah,
Hmm.
so I solved my acne, and then when I was working, when I finally got a job after that, I was like, I think that's like a great idea for an app, and I don't really see anyone doing that. I would like to help other people who also like are like we're stuck with this problem that you can't really like talk to anyone about because you
Hmm.
feel like an idiot. And
Yeah.
yeah, I built this just like a basic app. It was like a tracker that you could put all your take a bunch of pictures every night of like your face or wherever. They would stay on your phone. They'd be like all private, and then you also would kind of set like I kind of did like a made that like scientific methodology like a little more apparent, where it's like what's your status of your skin tonight, and then the other box was like what is your current like hypothesis or skin routine, and trying to like be able to see the changes over time and like analyze the results and be able to like change hypotheses based
Yeah.
on the results.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like, that's what it kind of is today. Skin theory is this like tracker, very simple to be honest, but like still like super useful for
Hmm.
people.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you kind of took that, you made like kind of like a non-scalable version of it, validated it, make sure it worked for you, and then just kind of like took that, built an app around it because you knew it worked at that point in time.
Yeah,
That's
I,
really kind of cool.
that's true, but it's also like I didn't do it because that was like the non-scalable thing to do. It was like I
Right.
just needed this for me.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? As opposed
Yeah.
to like, the classic startup advice of
Yeah.
build for someone else. Like, I just needed this and I wasn't thinking about it being a product at
Right.
the start, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's a good point that sometimes it's just good to start. You got to start somewhere, right? So like just starting
Yeah.
from that point in time, getting some validation is good. So now you have the app. Like, what's been kind of growth of the app over the years? What's it doing now? It's on the
Yeah,
App Store
it's
still.
I would say it's like a kind of funny, like extremely unsexy kind of growth curve, you know? It's like one of these like well, I just built it, and actually, people kind of did started to come to it, which never happens. Like people never just, like build something and they will come. Like complete lie, but it kind of
Hmm.
works for me, weirdly. I the tip about that is just be on somewhere algorithmic where your algorithm will recommend you stuff. For
Hmm.
example, like I basically built this app with React Native, so it would be on Android and it would be on iOS. Learned a lot about that. Very cool. And then, but you're able to put that on the App Store, and actually, the App Store will start to point. Like people actually search on the App Store, and
Mhm.
like something really cool about that is that like as opposed to like SEO or like like websites,
Mhm.
it's like there's just the whole internet is like massive and there's so many websites. It's actually a lot easier to put out a website. Like it doesn't cost you money to register it anywhere. Like to
Mhm.
be an iOS developer, you have to pay like $100. I think like 50 for Android. But there's also just so much less competition, not only because of the money in, but because of like how much of a pain in the ass it is to make an app. To be honest, compared to a website.
Mhm.
And yeah, like you just that actually grew itself for me. And so like we started from like zero users, zero marketing, basically zero marketing still, but I'd say we have over 50,000 users. Not like completely active, but over 50,000
Yeah.
users who've used our product at least, you know?
That's still really cool though, because I mean, how many stories have you heard about people getting all prepared for launch and then they launch and no one signs up for the first like 3 months or whatever. So it's really
Yeah.
cool that you got that organic growth over time. And so did you have like a formal kind of marketing and sales approach for this, or was it word of mouth, or just kind of working what worked for you at that stage?
Uh, yeah, like this is the kind of thing that it's not the way I would recommend for anyone to build. And it's the way I'm not building my future projects as
Yeah.
well. Uh, I just built it and hoped they would come. And it was actually pretty disheartening when they didn't at the start. But it slowly
Hmm.
started to just kind of, because I just kept it alive, it started to compound and we added features and stuff and people started liking it. So like
Yeah.
very low and slow. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a good question, actually. So if you could do it again, what would you essentially change as far as, would you do SEO? Would you do, there's just so many options, I think. I don't know if you found something that worked best for kind of like B2C.
Yeah, I wouldn't build an app unless maybe now I could do it. Maybe now I could do it because I
Mhm.
know how to do it and I could do it quicker. But from the start before, it's like, oh my God, it took so long to learn everything.
Mhm.
It's a different ecosystem. But it's also easier now. Like even 4 years ago, which is like not that long ago, it was harder. And now it's getting easier and easier with React Native and Expo and like all these other things, making it quicker to do to actually build these from the ground up. But
Mhm.
nonetheless, I still wouldn't. I would say like it's still like a pretty what's it called? Like giant thing to build before you test
Yep.
something. Like the way I would
Yep.
do it now is definitely distribution first. Like I think the
Mhm.
classic build a landing page with fake like as much like basically fake info or like info that says here's this thing,
Mhm.
and come and join us. We'll give you a discount when it launches. Like that kind of landing page and just see
Yep.
if you can get in front of anybody before building anything is like really the way I plan to do it. I would
Mhm.
plan to do anything, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, just test the market, get feedback on it, and then build when you actually know 100% what people are gonna be asking
Yeah,
for.
because I mean, even like test the market sounds like too like obtuse or something to me. It's more like, can I find a niche somewhere? Can I like throw
Yeah.
up like a grappling hook and
Hmm.
actually with my like minimal resources get into somewhere? You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And is it
Yep.
like is the marketing there? You know?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. And so for this too, because this obviously depends on the product that you have. I have a little bit of insider knowledge, not to break the fourth wall here, but I talked to Connor when he was putting a Skin Theory together, and you ended up avoiding being a medical device, which is a good move for a lot of companies, just because of kind of like the resource drain it takes to actually go through certification. If you can get customers without doing it, it's always a better kind of path to market for people. So. I know that you were able to kind of avoid that. So did you just talked to a few people and you were able to essentially make the decision the medical device wasn't the right way to go? Was that something that you were hoping to do in the long run, or was it just something that kind of you found out, oh crap, there's this certification thing that I might have to dance around down the road? Like kind of what was the
Yeah, I think we really didn't think about it until
yeah.
later on in the process, which actually I think is right in a
Hmm.
way, depending what you're doing. But like for our situation, it was totally right to wait. Like I think getting some advice or like understanding a bit about like the implications, like are you doing something illegal? You just need to know, are you not doing anything illegal and avoiding that
Yep.
and and then I feel like it's like really push the medical device stuff as far as you can until it like you know that payoff is going to like equal itself
Mhm.
in like opportunity or revenue or whatever. Like for us, basically, of course, as I said, the fourth wall. Like I talked to you, you basically gave me all the knowledge.
Mhm.
I like year, 2 years ago about all this, and yeah, I guess like the big thing you were telling me was like we wanted to get into like kind of like recommending stuff. And even that word's the dangerous word. Like basically telling people like, hey, based on what you're doing, you might like this kind of thing. Or like, I don't know, like your skin might you have this type of skin, so try this. Like you can't
Yeah.
really say any of that with that language. And that we didn't know. So that's if we really wanted to get into that, I think that's like there's ways around it, right? To like
Yeah.
not say that, but then you have to be very careful.
Yeah, and a lot of startups don't know that, and how could they without actually knowing the regulations, right? So
Hmm.
it's why it's always good to have at least people that could give you free advice on it, like we had
Yep.
back when we met. So, and as a podcast, I want to say that we always promote legal behaviors of companies here. Just put that on the record. So we always try to give you, and that's the thing though is you want to build a product that your customers are going to want, right? So if they're going to want a Skin Theory app that's giving them a full treatment plan and they won't buy it otherwise, then that's something that you have to consider, right? So your regulatory strategy should always follow kind of your customer strategy and your revenue growth. So yeah, I think that's I mean we talked about it before, but that was definitely the right move. So um, so yeah, so you're in Berlin. You want to talk about kind of like building a company there? If it was any different than when you started, I guess back in Ireland, kind of things you like, don't like, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I had a really nice landing in Berlin, at least to the startup scene, because I did this incubator that like yeah, it's called Antler, and it was a great program to be honest. But I got to meet basically a lot of people who were in the scene kind of in Berlin, which I never really would have had before because I think a lot of people probably feel this, especially who like are more like want to build something but haven't yet. Is like you might be like really stuck in a kind of like maybe like you only know engineers because you work in
Yeah.
engineering and like corporate, or you only know salespeople and maybe corporate as well, where it's like this is like a different it's kind of adjacent to where you want to be. Like, yes, you're in tech, but you're not really next to people who like are VCs, for example, or people that are indie hackers or other startup founders. And so for me, that was like really nice. I really liked being able to like, now I'm meeting more people than just engineers, which you really need to do. Like, you can just build something engineering, but you're missing out on like so much. And there's a good chance you're going to take the long way to building
Hmm.
a product, like we just said. Like maybe you'll build the whole product before and then
Yeah.
think about distribution and give up because you don't like doing that. So
Yeah. Yeah, having those type of people early on that can give you the honest advice about like, don't do that. I've done that before. Like that doesn't work, that kind of thing. Even if it's a hard truth, is really, really, really nice to have.
I mean,
So
I think it's also like as people say, like you're the product of who you hang out with, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
And I
Hmm.
think I think it's pretty true. You can
Hmm.
be, of course, unique, but I think it only helps your case to be around people who are
Yep.
successfully founding it as well, you know?
Yep. Yeah. Do you feel like the Berlin scene is kind of sticking true to that? Is it trending any direction or over the past few years? 'Cause you've been here for how long, actually?
Uh, what is it? Coming up on 4 years?
Four
I think
years.
four. Oh yeah, now it's 4 years. Yeah. I mean, I think yeah, there's definitely a scene here. It's no Silicon Valley. I'll say that for
Sure.
sure. But like that's like I think there is like a really good scene for startups,
Hmm.
and you have like the whole Rocket Internet kind of like I don't
Hmm.
know group that like started a lot of this like
Yeah.
15 years or 20 years ago, whatever that was. And so I think there's a lot of like there is like a bit of like lineage of entrepreneurship here,
Yeah.
and it's almost like traceable, which is kind of weird to like
Yeah.
people who know other people. But yeah, there's a scene, and also like for example, Silicon Alley was something we did, which was really cool. Call out Travis for that,
Hmm.
where we were able to get like this like equity free funding for like a whole year so we
Hmm.
can work on skin theory, and like that was amazing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, totally. And that doesn't exist everywhere. I mean, in the States, like you actually have to, you really have to search around for that kind of stuff. I think there's probably more kind of free equity from VCs and other places in the US, but like that free equity, the equity free funding from the government or wherever, just to kind of get this your startup from like 0 to 1, I think exists a little bit in better
Yeah.
supply over there. So cool. Okay. Last couple questions just on skin theory, and then we can have like we can finish up. But just always want to ask kind of what was like your biggest success when you think back, kind of like building skin theory to what it is today, and then maybe like the thing that you felt like you struggled the most with.
Yeah, I'll try to start both very different questions. Of
Hmm.
course, like diametrically opposite, but like the big, I guess, successes tough. Like it's like at different times they were different sizes. You know what I mean? Like building my first app and putting it out was huge when I did that. I'd
Hmm.
never done that myself. Like I also only built tech that was like built on in like a corporate setting, you
Yep.
know? So I mean like putting out the app initially was amazing. I think what else? Getting into Silicon LA was like really I think that was like a huge how would you describe it? Like reassuring factor.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
where it's like we like this is kind of like around when I was learning how to like pitch and do like startup decks and like talk the startup
Mhm.
talk as opposed to just being this engineer. And when we got into that, it also meant that Skin Theory had like another, had a year of life basically to
Yeah.
live without us having to worry too much about like paying our own bills, which was
Hmm.
very like extremely like fresh air because we didn't
Yeah.
know what we were going to do at that point. We were like, I don't
Yeah.
know, probably have to take a full-time job otherwise.
Hmm. It's an
Yeah,
underrated skill too, because you could have the best idea in the world, and if you can't sell it right, then no one's going to listen to you, right? So, and that's
yeah.
part of the application process for these accelerators is really showing people
I,
the need for it.
I
Mm.
think the coolest, like, I mean, I think the best business one or like the best like startup one was when we released our first paid offering. That
Hmm.
was took a lot of work. It took a lot of like kind of debating over what is can be free, what shouldn't. Like everything, we want to make everything free, but you just can't.
Right.
Like you got to
Yep.
charge people somewhere.
Hmm.
And like us learning, like people actually paying for a thing was like extremely gratifying.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, that's always really
yeah.
cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Cool.
yeah, sorry. And so you said the opposite. What is
I know
that?
you don't want to
The
answer it, but you can answer
I don't mind. I don't know. I think
I'm
that's
just
like
kidding.
the best points come out of like the
Right.
worst
Yep.
things. You learn
Hmm.
so, as they say, you learn so much more from like the failures and like the mistakes or
Hmm.
like even just like the hard stuff. And I would say like for example, like we had as I said, we had like a year within Silicon LA, but like what that meant, and I think that actually the problem was that it gave us a lot of time to like kind of sit on our haunches, think about the
Hmm.
process, think about scale, think about like, this will be nice and this will be nice, hemming and hawing, as opposed to
Hmm.
taking like really big swings at bat. And
Hmm.
that I think is something I've learned in a big way, where like you have only so much momentum in your startup. You have so much time. You need to take these big at bats, and like
Hmm.
it's tough to say. Like it's really easy to say from um, like here, me sitting in the armchair. But like
Hmm.
when you're on the ground and you're like, oh, our users would love this small feature. It's really any. Oh, we should build something users are gonna love and delight the user. Or I can build this other thing that we have no idea if users are gonna like, or maybe we have some idea, but it's a huge departure from what we
Hmm.
have, right?
Hmm.
Like those are really tough and you could debate all day about it. And I think when you're at the start of something and depending on the trajectory, like if you raise money, if you need to go big, or if you're like want to go indie hacker and go small,
Hmm.
um, I think you want to take the really big swings before you have product market fit and like these bigger bets instead of like we built a lot of these small bets, which are really good and users love them, but they're not like something that's going to make us $1 billion company, for
Right.
example.
Yeah. What moves the needle, you know?
Yes.
So, yeah, and it's all calculated risks at that point in time, right? And that's always the toughest thing being in a startup is like you're
Yeah.
always taking risks. It's like which ones do you take? So I
I,
totally get
I,
that.
I mean, I
Yeah.
learned that even when I first started pitching as well. I really started as an engineer, like, oh, here's the features we'll definitely build, and here's going to be my timeline because this is how fast I can build them.
Hmm.
And what I should have been doing was not thinking about my timeline so much and thinking more about where is the moonshot,
Yeah.
um, and we'll figure out how to get there.
Yeah, no, I totally get that though, because also you're like working on your like your baby, right? So like just working on it every day feels nice, right? And then but you
Yeah.
have to always constantly be like pushing the envelope for things to like really get to that next level, whatever that may be, at that point in time for your startup. So yeah, totally,
Yeah. There's a
totally agree
pull
with that.
between this like low and slow and,
Yeah,
you know, big bets and
yeah,
I don't know, fast and lots of funding or something, you know?
yeah, 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 totally. Killer. Awesome. Well, thanks for all the stories on Skin Theory, your progress and everything. We're gonna do just like a quick fire round at the end here, just like fun stuff that I think it's always nice to hear from other founders, kind of what they do, what they like, what tools they use. So, first question: what is a tool or an app that you can't live without?
Cooler app. I cliche. I feel like a lot of mine are gonna be cliche, but like Notion.
Notion.
I got into it during Skin Theory, and I'm yeah stuck to it like glue.
Yep. Okay. What is a book, a resource, website, or person to follow that you think every kind of med tech or digital health founder would enjoy following?
Now I don't know
Or
if I have a great one for like specific med tech. I would say like definitely tech company or like
Sure.
startup stuff. I would think of would be like also cliche is this the mom test if you've ever read the mom test. It's
Mm-hmm.
like a I don't know, I'll just say it for if anyone's listening and doesn't know. It's kind of like a way to kind of talk to users and get real feedback um about your startup because basically most people lie to you and
Mm-hmm.
it I kind of learned from this book and knew that like
Yep.
I didn't really realize that
Yeah.
everyone's lying to you because they want to be nice.
Cool. Yeah. Mom test. Yeah, I've heard of that one. That's good. I'll read that too. Cool. Do you have any other startup ideas that you want to work on but you haven't started? Maybe some things you came across over the years?
I got a few ideas. They're kind of more indie hackery ideas. Like I'm kind of yeah, I don't know. I like there's some like the AI stuff of course looks interesting and that's probably where we're going to be like moving for the next few years. So there's still some low
Yeah.
hanging fruit there. Like some stuff I think about is like for example like this B2B idea of like a kind of content moderation API.
Mm-hmm.
It's something very simple. Like these already exist, but like I have this kind of idea for like a different USP that would be very easy for developers to use.
Yeah, that's cool. Cool. Okay. And then where can our listeners find out more information about you and Skin Theory?
Yeah, our website is skintheory.app and we're on like the app stores, the main two. And yeah, I guess I have a personal website, c0n0.com. So you can check that out.
Cool.
Yeah,
Right on.
Thanks for having me, Spencer.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Go check out Skin Theory. If you have had acne like all of us, or just trying to have better, healthier skin, just go check it out. You can find Connor. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.